I call to order today's Judicial and Public Safety Committee meeting, the May 21st. Yeah, everybody be quiet. Okay, I call to order the May 21st, 2024 meeting of the DuPage County Board, not DuPage County Board, Judicial and Public Safety Committee. A quorum of the members is physically present. I will entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present due to personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or the business of the board, family or other emergency, or unexpected childcare obligations to participate by video or teleconference. Do I have a motion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, let's welcome Member Guston to the committee. Welcome. And so today, let's see. Can we get a roll call then?
Chair Evans.
Here.
Member Chaplin. Member Childress.
Yes.
Member Dessart. Member Eckhoff. Member Guston.
Here.
Member Krajewski. Member Ozog. Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu. Here. Member Zay.
Okay, so for my chair remarks today, Dr. Richard Jorgensen, our DuPage County coroner, will give an update on opioid deaths within the county. This is item 10 on our agenda, and I'm looking forward to his presentation. And so I want to circle back to a few things that were discussed in our last JPS meeting. First of all, a number of members requested that the DuPage County State's Attorney provide an opinion as to whether or not it was permissible for the DuPage County Sheriff to use funds obtained via his campaign account to recruit deputies. I want to thank our state's attorney, Robert Berlin, for providing his legal opinion. We all should have gotten it in our inbox, but for the general public who didn't get it, then this is their update. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the key points are that campaign spending does not fall under the jurisdiction of the circuit court. The State Board of Elections is authorized to conduct investigations, inquiries, and hearings concerning the disclosure and regulation of campaign expenditures. The location and hiring of deputies is a performance of the sheriff's governmental and public service functions. So it is the opinion that those, what our sheriff was saying that he was going to do with his campaign funds to recruit deputies, that wouldn't be prohibited. So this is a quote from the memo provided by our state's attorney. Provided that the expenditures are reasonable and not an impermissible personal expense, the sheriff would be permitted to expend funds from his campaign account. So there's our answer. I just wanted to follow up for anybody who was watching and didn't know what happened. So second, another member asked for an update regarding the new procedure established by the state's attorney's office regarding pretrial detention for those charged in domestic violence cases. So I'm pleased to announce that Mr. Berlin will be at our July 1st JPS meeting to discuss domestic violence statistics. And with that, I would accept a motion to approve the Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 committee meeting minutes. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, moving on to item 6, procurement requisitions. Can I get a motion to approve JPSP-16-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Justice Text Inc. for the purchase of audiovisual evidence maintenance software licenses for the Public Defender's Office for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 for an amount not to exceed $45,000, not suitable for competitive bids, sole source. Welcome. Okay, do we have a motion? Can I get a second? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to resolutions. Can I get a motion to approve FIR-88-24, additional appropriation for the Illinois State Opioid Response Criminal Justice Medication Assisted Treatment Integration Grant, PY23 MOU, I can read the MOU number, from $75,000 to $105,000, an increase of $30,000. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Oh, wait, did anybody? It was moved and seconded, right? Okay. Moving on to action items. Can I get a motion to approve JPS CO-4-24, Recommendation for the approval of an amendment to purchase order 5757-1 serve for a contract issued to Flock Group, Inc. for the purchase of Flock Falcon cameras to increase the contract in the amount of $17,500, resulting in an amended contract total amount not to exceed $280,000. We had a motion, and do we have a second? Okay, second, and we had discussion. Member Chaplin?
Thank you. So when I'm looking at the request for change order, the boxes marked A were not reasonably foreseeable at the time the contract was signed. When I go to the decision memo, it says, per the original contract, a price increase can occur when appropriate. So I'm confused. The decision memo and the requests, the change order don't gel.
Okay,
So what is it? Was it the contract or?
Is there somebody from the?
One says it wasn't foreseeable at the time of the contract. The other said the contract said it. So I'm just looking for clarification.
I will defer to the sheriff's office. I believe somebody's online for that.
Good morning, it's Dan Billadu. I believe that box is Scrivener's error, Member Chap. When it was Flock notified us in the appropriate amount of time within their contract that they were going to have a price increase. I believe it was a minimum of a 60-day notice. They notified us that they were increasing their prices, so we had to amend the original paperwork for that. So I believe that box is just a Scrivener's error.
So, okay, so then when we bring this to county board, box B will probably be then marked because that's germane to the original contract as signed. Is that correct then?
Yes, I apologize. One mistake was made. We will correct that.
Thank you.
Okay, Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, I'm, okay, there's a box that was checked wrong, but I think this is great. We're getting an additional 25 cameras, so one was getting double the amount for this increase, as I'm seeing it. And then we also get access to another 7,500 cameras throughout the United States. So even though it seems like an increase, it seems like we're getting a lot for a small amount.
Yes, when it was initially done, we got the original 25 cameras for free. It was a first year for the contract that we signed. So what they did was there was a portion that they increased the cost on. That's what this nominal price increase is. But yes, we do have access to all of the network cameras that Flock has in the country. So it's a pretty phenomenal system.
Okay, thank you.
Member you? Oh, sorry, Member Krajewski and then Member you.
Thank you. These are the license plate readers, correct?
Yes, sir. There's actually a couple here on the campus.
Right, yeah. Those, I mean, I was pushing for this a long time ago to get those. And then I know a lot of the communities on the east side, a lot of them in my district, the individual towns had been putting those in, Downers Grove, Westmont, et cetera. And I know one of the things they're talking about was trying to tie them all in together. Are some of the other municipalities using Flock? And
Some are using Flock. There's a couple different vendors out there. Some are using Flock. I can't recall the name off the top of my head, but there are other vendors, but Flock seems to be kind of taking over.
So we have access to all the ones around Flock?
Yes.
But what about the ones that the other municipalities that aren't? Are we able to tie into those?
We can't tie into the camera systems per se, but our detectives meet regularly with the detectives from all the other agencies. They share that information if it's needed.
And then the follow-up is, because I know I was pushing for this several years ago, and we finally were able to get the funding to do that, as we saw some of the municipalities were also doing the same thing, is maybe we just get a report sometime down the road from the sheriff, just how they're working, how, we're detecting, what we're detecting or what we found by having those. And I know that was a big thing also on campus. And I know I've talked to the people here, and we've caught a few that have come into the campus just with the license plate readers that we have here. Thanks.
Thank you. Member you?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I read that the price was actually increasing from 2,500 to 3,000 per camera. So I was just wondering, was there an explanation as to why that was? And if we are getting more cameras, does it still mean that we're getting a lesser price, per unit, or is it this is just a standard increase?
This is just a standard increase. As you're aware, the technology world increases costs on just about everything on a regular basis. They did give us the proper notification for that. We have two different camera contracts with Flock. One is 25 cameras, one is 35 cameras. So we have a total of 60 cameras, and we're doing our best to get those two combined for FY25. So it'll just be one consolidated contract.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Chief Bilodeau. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to informational, can I get a motion to place on file item 24-1568, informational public defender's office monthly statistical report, April 2024.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passes. So the second one, can I get a motion to place on file item 24-1569 pursuant to FIO 5622 and DTR 3306C22, 3 vehicle replacement purchase orders for FY24 for probation and court services have been issued to Haggerty Ford Inc. for the total amount of $93,333. Okay, motion, and is there a second? Nobody wants to second. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. How about now we are on to our presentation. Dr. Jorgensen? Yeah.
Thank you. So, excuse me, I am getting over a cold. The good news is that last year we had, for the first time, a decrease in the number of, oops, sorry, of deaths in DuPage County. As you can see, this is through 2007 through, I didn't fix this thing at the top, it's 2023. When I became coroner in 2012, 2013, we had about 38 deaths in DuPage County, and I considered that to be an epidemic. It has increased to, in 2021, we had 150 overdose deaths, which is horrific. And this year we decreased to 114, which is still an epidemic. This is not a victory lap. This is still 114 of our citizens dying of overdoses in 1 year. Though that is good news, I'd like to talk, oops, I'm sorry. Can you go to the next slide? I think I'm screwing it up here. Oh, okay, thanks. So one of the differences that changed is that back prior to 2015, we had 1 or 2 drugs in the system, and heroin was the drug of choice and of distribution. Prior to that, it was crack cocaine. But this year it was heroin that included in 2015, we passed a bill called the Heroin Crisis Act. Next slide, please. So this is what we would typically see in 2012. And then we'd see a little bit of drugs in the system, but you can see that like cocaine had 4 out of the cases, and then some scattered other drugs. Next slide, please. Starting in 2015, we had a big change. It started with the fentanyl outbreak of October 2015. Some person, and there was a gang on the west side of Chicago that was known for slipping a little bit of fentanyl in their heroin, and it made it a little bit stronger. And whoever was mixing the drugs that week killed about 400 people. Interestingly, this then went into the suburbs. We lost a large number of people at that time as well. Next slide, please. Fentanyl started becoming more persistent in the area, and at this point has totally supplanted heroin, which I'll tell you about. More importantly, the isomers of fentanyl, which have different structures and have different strengths. Most important being the isomer carfentanil. Fentanyl is 100 times stronger than morphine, and carfentanil is 100 times stronger than fentanyl, which means it's 10,000 times stronger than the normal morphine that we use every day in hospitals. This is so strong that it can kill people on contact by aerosolization. And first responders have OD'd and ended up in the ICU just by smelling this stuff. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the change that happened prior to 2015. All of the deaths in this county would have been blue, which is just heroin. And you can see that in 2015, we started seeing a mixture of fentanyl and heroin, which is the green, and then actually just fentanyl deaths. Next slide, please. By 2018, you can see here that heroin alone has become a minority, and the majority is either pure fentanyl or fentanyl and heroin. Interestingly, during this time, and continuing actually now with some bad data collection, people have been reporting that deaths are down. And in this area specifically, there were a number of coroners that were saying that their deaths were down because they weren't testing for fentanyl properly. And so they were missing all of those red deaths up there. Next slide, please. So what do we have today? There's a number of important things that have happened today. And one of them is polypharmacy. Well, the first thing is the change from heroin to fentanyl. You can see that in this slide, of the 114 deaths, there's only 10 of those toxicologies that had heroin in them. And so that's become almost a non-important drug. We don't even talk about heroin anymore. But 80 of those had fentanyl in them, and most of them had multiple isomers of fentanyl, a number of them up to 4 different isomers of fentanyl. And then you can see there's also amphetamines, antidepressants, 50 of them. So slightly under half had cocaine in there as well. So, this polypharmacy has become standard. It used to be that somebody would die of a heroin overdose, and now they die of a polypharmacy overdose, to the point for the last 2 years, I do not assign the deaths to a drug. So I don't say it's a fentanyl death, because there's so many drugs in the system, we have no idea of how to assign the deaths. Next slide, please. Also, big important change, I think, is in the demographics. So the demographics on the left are the deaths in 2013. The standard around the country has been about 20 to 25% females and 75 to 80% males. That continues throughout the country and throughout DuPage. But you can see that the age range has changed tremendously. It used to be mostly, there were a number of teens, and that year, I always point out that there was 2 of the people in the 20s were not 21, and there were 5 in their teens. So there were 7 people out of those 46 people who died of drug overdoses without being able to buy a beer in a bar legally. So you can see that in 2023 to the right, you can see there's a marked shift to where now 30% of the deaths are in their 30s, and 24%, the second largest, is in their 40s. So there's a shift to older people, and this has gone on for 3 years now. So I don't know exactly for sure that I can say this, but I can speculate that there's less people using the hard, deadly drugs. And maybe this is just an aging population with less people joining at the bottom, but I don't know that that's, I mean, I can't prove that, but certainly the statistics show that the population is aging. Next slide, please. I do want to point out the great success of the DuPage Narcan project, which was spearheaded by our health department. We started this program in 2013, had pretty much everyone in law enforcement trained by 2014. Next slide, please. To date, we have trained 7,400 different police officers in DuPage County, and a lot of surrounding facilities and counties. Law enforcement agencies have joined us and asked us to help them. We've had 1,950 uses and 1,500 lives saved. Next slide, please. So if we take that first slide that we had up there and we put on the Narcan lives saved, and these are, just to be clear, these are just DuPage Narcan projects. These are just first responders. These are not emergency room, and this is not fire as well. This is just police department saves. You can see what this might have looked like if we had not had this very important project going on. Next slide, please. I'm done. So anyway, I think the key things is that we did go down. I hope that next year we continue to go down. And the other important things is the polypharmacy and the change to fentanyl, which is very important. And we have no idea what drug may replace that or be involved in the future. Next, any questions?
Thank you,
Comments?
Dr. Jorgensen. Yes, we have a few questions. I'm going to start with Member Desart, Member Yu, and then Member Childress.
Dr. Jorgensen, thank you so much for your presentation. I saw it yesterday too at the Hope Task Force 2.0.
Not the Hope Task Force.
I know it's not. That's why I call it 2.0. I'm really concerned about the demographics. And I know that you deal with the dead, not the living, but I'm sure you talk to the family of the people who passed away about why is it skewing older? Do you think it's because people are having surgeries or whatever and get hooked on? Oh, because I can't imagine like a 35 or 40-year-old thinking, I'm going to go on hard drugs today, you know? So I'm wondering if you have any theories or talking to other doctors or family members on why you think it's skewing older. Thank you.
I think I answered that, but I'm hoping that it's less people are entering using hard drugs at a young age and that these people are just aging. But but in the past, we have no question that the introduction to heroin and fentanyl and prescription drugs was introduced when people did get ill and did use prescription drugs. And we've worked very hard in the community and across the state and country to change our prescribing practices. So that's hopefully less people are entering this addiction because of that. But other than that, other than I'm hoping that less people are entering addiction of hard drugs, I don't have any other explanations.
Member Yu?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I think Dr. Jorgensen just answered my question. My question was going to be, what do you attribute to the decrease in death in 2023 versus 2022, which I think you just answered.
Well, as to why less people died, I don't have an opinion about that, because there's certainly, there's the drug supply in this area is ridiculous, cheap, strong, available. Within minutes of here or a short drive, you can get all of the fentanyl that you want that is the purest in the country. One of the benefits of being in Chicago is we have a tremendous transportation system of rail, water, air, highways. The bad part about it is this is a transportation hub for drugs and you can get anything you want. So it's not the supply. The supply of fentanyl is through the roof in this country. So it's not supply. It may be other educational issues and awareness issues.
Right, thank you. I think I was just wondering if there was something that we were doing and maybe we could do more of it to further decrease.
Well,
the
in
death.
my press release, I identified at least 7 different things, one of which was the Hope Task Force, which doesn't exist anymore, that I think is critically important. And what the sheriff is doing in the jail, what the state's attorney is doing in focus court and in drug court, community groups. I've named 7 different things, the Narcan project. So I'm sure there's more things, but that's kind of the major things that I could think of.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Member Childress, and then Member Zay.
Can I see that last slide again, please? I'm looking at 2023. Are there no lives saved in 2023, or is that?
The data is not out.
The data is not, okay, that's all I just question. Thank
Yep.
you.
Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Jorgensen, thank you. I mean, I was on this board when you brought this to us and we all kind of looked at each other and had no idea what, fentanyl was or anything else. And to see how much it's changed over the years is because of you bringing it to our attention. I mean, in the Narcan program, I mean, that was something that as the coroner, you saw this and said, hey, this is a problem. And you brought it to our attention. So, I mean, everything that we've been doing, I can't thank you enough because like you said, those lives saved and bringing this to people's attention at the time, was something that nobody really knew anything about.
Yeah.
And I think you started that throughout the country too. You went to NACO and did other stuff. I mean, you've gotten awards for it. So again, we're lucky to have you and I appreciate this because, I'm an old school guy.
Wow.
We drank, we did, whatever, but this drug thing is scary for our kids out there. And again, thank you for your work.
Well, thanks for that. But honestly, there's a huge amount of people in this county. I give my hat off to the health department. We have a health department that is unbelievable in the work that they've done in regard to this and also in COVID. They're just a great partner. So we have a lot of wonderful assets here.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming. This is very eye-opening and disturbing. Okay, moving on. Do we have any old business? Okay, Member Ozog and then Member Chaplin.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say a couple of things about our meeting last 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, my husband asked me a question he'd never asked me before. He asked me if I felt safe, and I didn't know what he was talking about. And he was referencing an article in the New York Times that came out yesterday, and the article was entitled, "We'll See You at Your House." And I would recommend that all of us read that, especially elected officials. It talks about intimidation, threats, et cetera, toward elected officials from the highest levels in this country all the way to, as they put it, City Hall. And I think it's important for us, especially 6 months before and going into an election season, for us to think about how we react to inquiries from our constituents. And 2 weeks ago, I asked about what I had seen on social media that the sheriff was offering that he would use campaign funds toward recruitment. And I saw that myself, and I've been doing this now for well over a decade, as an interesting or perhaps not appropriate commingling of funds and responsibilities. And I spoke my truth that I thought this was of interest and I was concerned. So first of all, I want to thank the state's attorney for looking into it. And obviously the sheriff can do what he wants to do, but what's most important here is that what I spoke and said was responded to as I was being political, and that this was, basically an attack on the sheriff. And as first of all, citizen of the country, I have a First Amendment right to speak my mind, but I also, as a representative of my constituents, promised them that I would be a voice for them. So if I see something, I'm planning to continue saying something. But I would really recommend this article to everybody. It talks in particular about Fred Upton. He has been the representative from the western side of Michigan for over 35 years, and he's not running anymore. He's also an heir to the Whirlpool fortune. He doesn't need to be doing this. But the attacks that he received after he voted for both the impeachment and for the Infrastructure Act were such that he had the local police install cameras at his house, and he's no longer running. And I think that we all need to be very careful about our rhetoric, especially this next 6 months. And if we want to discuss a subject, that's great. But I think we really need to be very cautious, especially on social media, about calling out individuals. If you're going to be running for office in this next 6 months, discuss the issues, but leave the individuals alone. I think this is a really important and dangerous time for those of us who are elected officials, and we have a responsibility to act appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ozog. Member Chaplin?
Thank
And then
you.
members.
So, just a couple of things. First of all, I appreciate the memo sent by the state's attorney's office. However, that is simply an opinion, and it does not prevent anybody here from filing a complaint or ask the State Board of Elections to look into investigation of the sheriff's use of those funds. So that, I just want to make that clear to everybody that that is still, people are still able to do that. And, I do want to kind of piggyback off what Member Ozog said, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but since she brought it up, and it is a very important issue. I did email my questions to the sheriff. He called me back right away. We had a very nice conversation on the phone, about 5 minutes. We talked about, how we can help him with recruiting. We have a lot of money that, I mean, not a lot of money, but we have money available. And I just wanted to make sure that the sheriff understood that the county board is here to help him do his job, and that we want to help him fund things like recruitment, so that he doesn't have to go into his campaign funds to do that. We're here to help him. But I was very, very surprised to see a very, and I know the state's attorney disagrees with me, but I did send an email to the state's attorney, a very inflammatory Facebook post that sheriff had put on social media. Now, I didn't see it at first, but I had received several text messages saying, "Oh my God, the sheriff's attacking you. Oh my God, the sheriff did this." I mean, so then I looked on Facebook and I saw it. And then I saw one comment that said, "Grr, let me at her." Okay, so this is what I'm saying, especially as the sheriff, he should be very cognizant of what he is putting on social media, because in these times, everything is so, I mean, we're lucky that here at the county board, more times than not, we have a very good relationship with our Republican colleagues. And I mean, sometimes we disagree on the board floor and we'll have disputes, but all in all, I think we respect each other. We're fair to each other. But that type of inflammatory rhetoric is really not acceptable. And I would ask that, this is why maybe we don't email the sheriff, because then he attacks you on social media. So I don't know how we can, have this relationship if we're really looking to help the sheriff. And I thought we had a very nice conversation. And I was very surprised to see that post put out there. So, I just want to make it clear that we want to work with the sheriff to make sure that he has everything he needs to do his job and fulfill his duties.
Thank you, Member Chaplin. Member Zay, and then Member Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, thank you for your comments at the beginning of the meeting. All too often, we have members that put allegations out there, or ask for investigations, or ask for opinions, and then we never hear again when the opinion comes out. I am disheartened when I hear a board member say that the state's attorney's opinion is just his opinion. And then again, I guess his opinion with the clerk and now with the sheriff and everybody else. He's our lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, but his opinion is our opinion through the law. He's just not making it as a personal opinion. He's using the law to do that. And they cited many cases on there. And again, other public officials fund staff and fund other people. The governor, who has the means to do it, funds his staff personally. I know state reps and state senators use political funds to help supplement their salaries. So what the sheriff is doing is completely within his purview to do that. I do get concerned when people stand behind a First Amendment and say they have the right to say stuff, but then in turn say the sheriff does not have a right to say something on his personal social media, not his county sheriff Facebook or whatever, his personal, which he has the right to do that. And maybe the sheriff feels maybe a little set up, maybe, I don't know, I don't speak for the sheriff, but when somebody emails him on their county email asking about political funds, maybe he thinks he's getting set up. A phone call probably been more important, but we all know mixing county emails with political emails is not a good thing. It could be looked at either way. But again, I've been in this 3 decades as an elected official, and I can ring my cup or my bell here. We got the bell. But again, yes, things have changed, but this is what we signed up for. This is what you do when you put your name on the ballot. You know the consequences that come up. And again, for those who don't want to do it or don't have the stomach for it, that's not. And I think this board, we all get accused, and I do more than anybody, because I speak and I've been a public speaker for years, that I'm a bully and I'm trying to intimidate. I'm not trying to intimidate anybody. I don't talk to anybody prior to meetings or anything else. That's my opinion. And again, I can have my opinion. It's my First Amendment right to have my opinion here. But to tell people to be careful, and because we're coming up to an election season and everything else, I mean, come on. Again, people have the right to say what they want to say. We got the opinion from the state's attorney that says the sheriff's completely within his rights to use those funds to help recruit people. And he didn't say at any time, the sheriff never said in any of his conversations that the county's not funding them enough. It's just every department we've heard for the last 3 or 4 years is having problems hiring people. And like I said, Lake County is working with McHenry County to combine their jails together because they can't get enough people in their jail to work. So again, let's not get into this and point to social media and everything else as that, because social media is that. I call them the keyboard warriors. They can say whatever they want because they don't have to talk people face to face. Let's talk face to face here. And if we have questions, let's call those people in and not talk about social media and people not having the right to say stuff. But I have a right to say things. It's going to be a long 6 months, obviously.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Garcia?
Thank you, Chair. Going in a whole different direction. I just wanted to thank Dr. Jorgensen for being here and doing his presentation today. I did want to clarify one thing. I think he said in there that the Hope Task Force no longer exists. And I wanted to make sure that we are aware that the county and the health department are working together with the DCSS, which is the DuPage Council for Strengthening the System for Mental Health and Substance Abuse. So there is work being done on this, even though the Hope Task Force is no longer there. It's been reconfigured and redone with the co-chairs of Chair Conroy and Chair Adam Forker of the Health Department. So I just wanted to make sure that people are not thinking that we're not even paying attention to this anymore. It is still being paying attention to. It just has a different name.
Yeah, that's a great point because it's even more fortified. It's even better. So and it didn't go away. It's bigger and better than ever. Okay, we have Member Ozog.
In response to my colleagues' discussion here about social media, the sheriff has 2 pages. One is called James Mendrick Sheriff, and that is Mendrick for Sheriff. So that is under his title, but it is a political page. The other is James Mendrick. And if I recall, this post about his conversation with Member Chaplin was posted on both of those. Now, you may discount social media, but social media in the last 15 years has completely changed the landscape of dialogue in the United States. And it has led to many incendiary issues in the past number of years. And to have a private conversation between himself and Member Chaplin, but then to post what he did is arguably incendiary. So if you're going to do that kind of thing and name a colleague, then you are possibly part of what could be seen as a problem. Ask former Representative Fred Upton and ask Jamie Raskin of Congress, who has just filed for restraint orders. So this is not a fake or unbelievable problem. I mean, I know people in DuPage County who were at January 6th. There are all kinds of people out there. And I think that using social media responsibly and not directly calling out colleagues, especially in an election situation, is very important because none of us really know this landscape and it is evolving constantly, but everyone knows where I live. Everyone knows where all of us live. And while I did sign up to be in the public sphere, none of us signed up to be threatened or to be concerned about our safety. So if there is anything we can do to mitigate that, and I'm speaking to all of us, any of us have social media, so we need to act responsibly. This is not about picking on the sheriff or anything else. I had a question that I had a concern about, and I will be asking those questions, but I also would expect that we have civil discourse, preferably on the board floor, about these issues. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Member Ozog. Any other new business? Oh, wait, actually, was that old? That was old business. Any new business? Okay, without objection, we are adjourned.